After more than a year of hostilities and 2 months of an all-out war, a ceasefire takes effect in Lebanon. The agreement calls for an initial 60-day halt in fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah forces would leave their positions in southern Lebanon and retreat north of the Litani River, which runs more than 30 kilometers or 20 miles north of the border with Israel. Israel, meanwhile, will withdraw its forces from Lebanon over a period of 60 days as the Lebanese army takes control of its territory near the border to ensure Hezbollah does not rebuild its infrastructure there. US President Joe Biden has said that the move would allow civilians on both sides to safely return to their communities. Lebanon's foreign minister has said that the Lebanese army is prepared to deploy at least 5,000 troops in southern Lebanon as Israeli soldiers withdraw. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has thanked the US President Joe Biden for his involvement in securing the ceasefire agreement. The United States is Israel's key ally and a military backer, the biggest one actually, and Biden has hailed the deal as good news and a new start for Lebanon. He spoke at the White House after Netanyahu's office said that his ministers had approved the deal. 10 ministers voted in favor and 1 against. Netanyahu says a ceasefire with Hezbollah will allow Israel to focus its attention on Hamas and its arch-enemy, that's Iran. On the other hand, Biden and French President Emmanuel Macron believe that the ceasefire will protect Israel from Hezbollah and create conditions for a lasting calm. In a joint statement, Washington and Paris have said that they will ensure the deal is fully implemented. Netanyahu has vowed that Israel will implement a ceasefire deal but will respond forcefully to any kind of violation. In a televised address, Netanyahu said, and I'm quoting, "The length of the ceasefire depends on what happens in Lebanon." But this is what is happening on the ground in Lebanon. The announcement followed the heaviest day of raids on Beirut since Israel stepped up its air campaign in Lebanon in late September. The raids include a series of strikes in the city center. Hours ahead of the ceasefire taking effect, the Israeli army ordered the evacuation of residents in central Beirut and the southern suburbs of the city. Hezbollah, meanwhile, said it launched drones at sensitive military targets in Tel Aviv in response to the deadly Israeli strikes in Beirut. It also claimed responsibility for attacks on northern Israel after the agreement was announced. Hezbollah did not participate directly in the ceasefire talks, and Lebanese parliamentary speaker Nabi Berri was mediating on its behalf. The United Kingdom, the European Union, Germany and other nations have hailed the truce deal in hopes that it will bring a halt to the unrest and provide some measure of relief to the civilians. The US is now moving towards a new push for a ceasefire in Gaza. As he welcomed the Lebanon ceasefire, the US president said that his country would lead a fresh effort to secure a truce in Gaza, along with Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, Israel and others. And to get us the latest, our correspondent Jody Cohen is joining us from Ra'anana, Israel. Jody, finally some good news from Lebanon. What is it that you're hearing on the ceasefire front?
Hi, Ananya. So the question here that people are really talking about is how long will this ceasefire last? And as you said, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that how long the ceasefire would last really depends on what happens. He suggested that if Hezbollah breaks the ceasefire terms, such as by trying to rebuild infrastructure close to Israel's border or transferring arms, that Israel would stop them, and that would be in compliance with the agreement. Now, there's a US side letter guaranteeing Israel's rights to freedom of movement if Hezbollah Hezbollah breaks the ceasefire terms. It also reportedly suggests that the US would share intelligence if Hezbollah tries to infiltrate into the Lebanese army, which will be deployed in South Lebanon. And the letter also reportedly says that the US will work with Israel to prevent Iran smuggling weapons to Hezbollah. And a US official has suggested that Hezbollah is now extremely weak, which presents an opportunity for the Lebanese government to re-establish its sovereignty over Hezbollah, and that the international community has learnt mistakes from the last ceasefire in 2006, which failed in enforcement. And I think enforcement is really going to be the key here, because this is not a peace between Israel and the Hezbollah terror group, it's a ceasefire.
Right, you make fair points there. Also, we are hearing that Hamas says that it's ready to reach a ceasefire agreement. What is it that you're hearing from Tel Aviv on that?
Right, so a senior Hamas official told AFP that Hamas had told mediators that it's now ready for a ceasefire. We know that Netanyahu suggested that one of the reasons Israel agreed to a ceasefire now was to isolate Hamas. Netanyahu believes that without support from Hezbollah, the pressure on Hamas would lead to a hostage release deal. And an Egyptian delegation is in Israel today to discuss this. Now, President Biden had said that Hamas has a choice to make, suggesting that their only way out and to ease the suffering of the Gazan people is to release the hostages, including American citizens. And he said that the US proposal would end the war without Hamas in power. And a US official has confirmed that a Gaza deal could also be a window of opportunity for an Israeli-Saudi peace deal. And Netanyahu also suggested that the main reason for a ceasefire now was so that Israel could deal with the biggest threat to Israel, and that's the Iranian regime. And he said that Israel won't allow Iran to get nuclear weapons. And the side letter from America reportedly says that the US and Israel will work together to that goal.
All right, Jody, thank you so much for all those updates from Renana, Israel. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.